Warm up.
We haven't even been drinking. We just danced the Kylie a bit. So maybe that's the same effect. But yeah, there's a new Kylie Minogue audio track being pushed on YouTube, and I'm all for it. Sorry, we're a little late.
Oh, there's a Robinson Crusoe application.
There's a lot of stuff because it's Essen, and then
Yeah.
and then if you, they're offering up to 70% off promo codes, but you have to watch stuff, and like, it's cool. It's cool. It's a virtual booth experience that they're experimenting with.
But yes, if you are there, do message, because I know we started at an odd hour. Pico! You have joined us, Pico, and as the first one to join us tonight, you get the chance to join us as a guest.
What? Already? So yeah, we watched the premiere of Pearl Next Door. It was fun. It's a very different tone to Game Boys, and I like it. I mean, I appreciate that it's totally different.
It's very Pearl.
It's very Pearl.
She was so you can't deny it's her show.
Yeah,
Because she really carries the show the whole time.
Hey Jay, wow.
Hey Jay,
Are you trying to give us a theme song? Because we're 65 episodes in and we haven't figured out anything like a theme song and stuff. So, hey, if you're offering, why not?
So while we're waiting before we start, I shall grab ice.
Yes. Super love the new Kylie track. No, Andre, hello. You're not late. We're just starting. As I mentioned when I plugged today's episode, we plan to start late because we watched Pro Next Door first. Pro Next Door, and then I made Toby listen to the new Kylie track, and then I danced to the new Kylie track, and then Toby danced with me to the new Kylie track. So that was our pre-show warm up. And no, we didn't. I don't know. We're not gonna film the dancing. So, hey, Noel.
Jay says no spoilers, please.
No, because Andre mentioned he was watching Gaia sa Pelikula. I haven't bothered you with that show. It's okay.
But yes, clearly tonight we are drinking again.
This is the last of the Heineken from last week. So yay. Oh, you don't really know about the Heineken last week. Why am I? Most of you don't know. We supported a friend's event. It was like buy 12 bottles of Heineken and add a little extra for the ticket to the event. Yeah. And then that became Toby's drinks across 2 events because we had that one and then we had the Obar thing last Saturday.
Which is fine. I mean, it's always better to it's always nice to help people.
Yeah.
But if you can help people and get something as well back, then why not? It's happy year. So let's get started because after all, tonight is going to be
I didn't even bother my warm-up caption. I forgot. Sorry. There it is. Get your drinks ready.
But it's a Friday night, which means we got a lot of freedom to explore this and that and to pull people into the show. So quick hellos to Pico, Noel, and Andre and Jay for being our first 5 people as we officially start tonight's show.
All right.
This is Toby.
And this is why are you rushing? It's like this is news. Okay, and this is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, our little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
This is completely unscripted, not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us. We talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, ignore the comments that say kabaduyets is a thing. That is not gonna happen. Well, maybe it will in some time, but it's hard to tell.
No, it's not.
But no, we are not drunk. We are just happy because it's been a very heavy Friday.
It was a
So
super
much work.
Yeah, Toby was working up until 8 practically.
And you know it's a lot of work when you're in a meeting with your clients and your clients overhear you saying, okay, in slide 327. And the client goes, wow, we're already that far. And I go, wait, that's only the first PowerPoint. That's the first slides of 5 slide files we're going through. So yeah, we'll be spending more than 30 minutes for sure talking about
choosing family within the LGBT circle. So this is actually suggested by Jobo. His original topic phrasing was like cliques, barcadas, and families in the community. And we thought we'd kind of give it a bit of a spin. I see Nico is here. Hello, Nico. And then David is also here.
Awesome.
So, yay. So we kind of rounded out to like the concept of the chosen family. And this is not just limited to our pseudo family, you know, and Nico's ears will be burning all the time. But just talking about that whole experience in itself. And so it's going to be a storytelling evening. Okay, and then Toby has now once again discovered he has been fooled by the reusable ice cube.
Okay.
It's fine.
It's just
that's
funny.
what it's for.
Yeah,
but you always
always
get it.
I'm also the guy who gets, who gets fish bones in my fish fillet.
Yeah. So, we've had so many fillets, and then Toby always finds one. Nikki is all like, because Nikki, we are friends, but then there is a very specific family term, remember, that only Nico is family. So
so let's talk about tonight's topic.
I kind of wanted to start with the fact that I'm not a big friend. Growing up, I wasn't a big friends person. I did not have a barcada. I did not have a close circle of friends. And I guess in that sense, very stereotypical nerd, introverted, whatever. So that's one thing. So it's funny now that, although now I don't necessarily feel I'm like strongly friendly. But to be pointed out, I do seem to have a lot of stronger one-on-one relationships or sort of like one-on-one friendships that kind of form out from there. Yeah. So there's so much more. I don't know, but Toby, maybe we should say something first.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that many of us realize as we get older and we start connecting to people in social events on our own initiative, that we have certain ways we prefer to connect with people.
I need something. Keep going.
Okay. So like when we are younger, or when many of us were kids, I'm sure many of you have had those instances wherein your parents would insist you socialize, or they go to an event and they drag you along, and the next thing you know, go play with the kids of this and that family because I'll be busy. So in many instances, we were kind of forced to just grin and bear it and be social with whoever's in front of us. Maybe some of you were even more, I don't know, had the freedom to choose when you will relate or connect with people. But I know in my case, my family was quite active in the social circles. My parents had lots of friends, and there were many instances wherein I found myself playing with kids I did not know. And it was because it would be rude not to. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it just also makes you realize that as you get older, you then have now the freedom and the power and the initiative to choose when you will connect with people.
Okay.
And sometimes you discover that there are certain ways you prefer to do it.
Okay, that's fair. And then I think on my end, it's like the equivalent is that I was generally close with my first degree cousins. They're the kids of my peer group, sort of. Although we were the older ones that we would always hang out with, so that was okay. And then I guess I'll fast forward to like when I finally came out, and then I started living on my own, and I first met my boyfriend's at the time circle of friends,
Yes.
circle of gay friends, and I was telling the story to some degree that to Nikki actually that
and this was because of that movie.
because exactly because the boys in the band. There's a remake on Netflix now, and then it's largely a awkward birthday party among a group of LGBT, well, gay friends, who don't seem like friends at times.
Who don't seem to like each other.
They don't even seem to like each other. My experience wasn't that bad, but then it was kind of intimidating. That there is that classic like large group of gay friends, and then I was the new person there, and it was among my early ventures out as a gay person. I wasn't fully out, but I was exploring like what does it mean to be gay in that sense, and there is that sort of appreciation of okay, so this is what it's like among, and the conversation was very sexually liberal, and I mean there whatever that kind of banter back and forth, and then I had to deal with the fact that I was the new person in the group, so I was in the hot seat, and apparently that means everybody gets to ask me questions about me, including very awkward sexual questions, and it was an experience. I wouldn't replicate it with other friends. I wouldn't do that to other people necessarily, but it was their thing, and it was sort of endearing. It was a ritual, I guess everybody had to go through.
I think every circle of friends has their own form of hazing, so to speak.
Possibly, yeah.
And the hazing activity is basically that little activity that you try to use to break the ice and to get people to feel less closed up, less defensive about things.
That's true.
And I feel that's more prominent in gay circles because in many ways, many of us have been living lives wherein we were so defensive and so protective of who we are, what we like.
That's true.
Or even celebrating what we found attractive. So to be among friends who were gay, there was suddenly that, we'll break that away. Stop being ashamed. Stop being scared. Just let it out.
There is that. I mean, if you look at it from a positive, I mean, it was a little traumatic at first because here's me.
Not used to it.
I was not used to it because I wasn't social to begin with. That was the point of my mentioning earlier. I didn't do friends a lot, and then I was in college. I mean, sorry, I was in college, and most likely a freshman, at most junior, a sophomore, second year, and that was the whole thing. That I had snuck out for a party and to meet all these people, and this is the experience. And then them asking what I like in bed or who would I sleep with in the group, and these things. But to be fair, this general group of friends, most of them were like the people that we would go out with every weekend when we would go to Malate, and it sort of gave me an instant circle of people I knew, so that was cool. But it didn't necessarily feel right away like this was my I felt like an in-law. I didn't feel like it was my family yet. And I still feel generally fondly of them, but I will admit when that relationship ended, I dropped off that radar, and then we don't talk as much. It's just a natural circumstance.
So Pico asks, do you believe in the idea that as you go older, you eventually choose to narrow down the circle of friends you prefer?
Speaking as someone who barely had friends, my circles have always been narrow. But I guess to some degree there is more being more discerning about who you keep in your lives, and I guess that sense that for us, like especially for those people who see us at Obar, and I look back at my photos of Obar, and I always take. I almost always try to take photos of the people that we share the table with. If I don't take your photo, I really don't like you.
Statement.
Not drunk, just an admission. But yeah, I generally take pictures of the photos we're with, and then over time, I see the table composition changes. So it used to hurt more, I think, in the beginning. which is funny because I mean I wasn't exactly a kid anymore by the time this was happening. But naturally, as you sort of find people that you enjoy spending time with, that's then you always want to enjoy that. But then lives change, and then we drift apart, and then
sorry, Nick has just that I have lots of photos.
yes, Nick, we're friends. And then that transition. So yeah, so I guess going back to Pico's point, then do you become more discerning? In a way, yes. Or I become, or maybe I don't invest as quickly. Especially, okay, to be fair, we're talking about bar friends in this context. I mean, like a lot of them are people who we only will meet at the bar. Like we may not meet again. And I will barely remember their name on the night itself. There are people whose photos I have and I don't know who they are. So it can be, but in terms of like who we want to talk to outside of the bar and who you want to continue to be with, and yeah, there's definitely like higher standards.
Yeah. So I've had my share of realizations because in many ways I was in the, I guess you could say, opposite of what you went through. My college years were filled with lots of friends. We used to go to friends' houses, or in those rare occasions, hit bars, and there would be like 30 to 40 of us going out in the night.
Oh my God.
And
that just feels terrible.
yeah, and we were
I cannot.
And it was I guess you could I guess back then I felt I was in the peak of my social life.
Mon!
And then, oh my gosh, hey Mon, happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday,
Mon!
Mon. And we're talking about friends and family, and so nice to have you there. Okay, wait, I have to focus.
We're also at 10 viewers.
Okay, yeah. Wait, there, two guys. Yay! 10
Happy
viewers.
10.
Happy birthday, Mon!
Happy birthday, Mon! And 10 viewers. Yay. Okay, but
Okay,
yeah, continue.
So my college years were filled with so many friends. So as in, it was overwhelming how many we were. We'd go out and there'd be like cars following a line of cars when we go out. And as I graduated and started going out on my own, things flipped around very quickly. Suddenly, from like a group of 20, I'd be down to 5. And then a few weeks later, it's back up to 15. And then a few days later, it's down to 3. And it was so...
I can't imagine 30 to 40.
I guess I ended up just getting used to the fact that people come and go. There was a point in time that I did wonder, maybe it's me, maybe people don't like hanging out with
Nikki
me.
says, such a Lasallian thing.
True. But then in other cases, I've noticed that even those who have stopped showing up still reach out when there's problems and stuff. So I think it's just ultimately, in my case, people realized that it was fine to just live on and do whatever they wanted. So they didn't really feel obligated to connect or stay around, but they know they could always come back and reach out. And so in terms of circles getting smaller, I think yes, in the sense that I know who do stick around.
Yeah.
And no, in the sense of trying to keep it small. I don't have any conscious effort. I just know that people, as you get older, have responsibilities, have choices.
Ayan, na-trigger yung mga anim mo.
And animal. And yes, people eventually will have to focus on things they deem important. So we just have to accept that sometimes in our lives. It's nice though. I think Andrew was going to mention that he realized that as he was getting older, he was starting to connect with people who connect with him in a more specific manner. And I think that's part of what we want to talk about tonight. That the circles and the families you form can be quite multifaceted, can have multiple intersection points. It's not basically different circles, but think of it as Venn diagrams with a lot of intersecting and overlapping areas.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the overlaps are there and you just don't realize it. there's that story of a friend of ours we see in the bar practically every month, if not every week, when we go to the bar. And we only learned within the last 2 years that the person loves role playing games as well.
Oh yes.
And that was such a, oh my God, why are we only learning this now?
And why haven't we played?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and I guess and that's the risk, I guess. And I don't know, maybe this experience is not universal, but for us, I admit that we do find ourselves compartmentalizing or segmenting our friend groups. Like we have our queer, like Obar friends. We have our like tabletop role playing gaming board game friends, which is different from like my school friends and my. I mean, they're distinct clusters that rarely overlap. And then like and to be fair, I know there are sometimes that we've tried, like the Pride March comes along, and then we tell our gaming groups, which is a mix of straight and not straight people, like, hey, Pride March, you're always welcome to come as allies or whatnot. We would appreciate your support. And then people like sometimes show up, generally don't. Then when that doesn't happen, then you kind of feel like, okay, then this group is really just for gaming, and we kind of leave it at that, which may be fair based on the information available. But at the same time, you can't close the door permanently. I think that people change, or everyone has a different level of comfort with activities and stuff. So maybe it doesn't hurt to keep trying. Thus, in our case, maybe we should expand the way. Well, we always invite people to Obar. To be fair, regardless of gender.
We have brought so many people to Obar for their first time, only because there's always that desire to help people, stop being worried about trying the experience. And it's funny how there have been some who we know have started, well, back then started to bring their own circle of friends already. They started to have their own tables as well. But yeah, the lines that connect people are interesting. How, I guess, in truth, the world is so much smaller than you think. I've seen old classmates of mine in Don Bosco, Makati, who turn out to be now awesome friends with my brother in the States because they play in a band. I've had moments of, I'm talking to my coworkers, I'm talking to my boss, and then the next thing I know, it turns out their doctor is my brother-in-law. And it's these little intersections that happen in life that we tend to not see unless we're really looking.
Andre mentions, as a person who lives in Marikina, I haven't joined nor gone to Pride at least once. I guess dahil wala akong kasama or kakilala doon. So, me from a personal advocation is like, stop waiting for people. I mean, if there's something you want to do, stop waiting for people.
And that's a general statement.
That's general. That's not just about this whole friendship angle. But don't wait.
Unless the activity is something that really requires two people.
Like, I don't know, mixed doubles tennis. So you will need more people for that. Or
but nowadays, even having a kid doesn't need two people if you know where to look. So other people's comments. So Pico adds, I haven't reached a comfy state of LGBT friends since it's really challenging to answer sexual questions when I've never even had any experience at that time.
And then I don't think you should feel obligated to answer, or just get to like. I mean, and that's interesting. That's interesting to point out, isn't it? That there is an inherent comfort or glibness when it comes to sexual activity as a topic of conversation in queer circles, especially gay circles. I feel. Why is that? What is that?
I think it's because in many ways we defined our identity, at least when we were young, based on our sexual preference. And so it is so ingrained as to who we are. Or at least that was the perspective, which is why for many literary attempts to talk about the gay life, it was always about the sex.
Yeah.
And, that reached a point, it's about the sex, or it's about the disease, or it's about the rejection. And there's so much more to gay life and gay identity beyond those things.
but isn't that, but it is funny, but again,
Excuse me.
your LGBT friend experience is not defined by
Mhm.
your sexual proclivities and interests. So don't let that be a barrier to making queer friends. Because at the same time, I find it still very important to have LGBT friends or people of a similar soji, because it's just you're more free to be you. I feel
Mhm.
the entire version of you.
Mhm.
Then you don't have to be ashamed about saying that you find this and that actor attractive.
Hello, Rainiel.
Hello, Rainiel. And then that sort of thing. I wouldn't hold back in that
Mhm.
sense. I lost my train of thought. So I don't know. It's a little lofty, but yeah. So it's like don't be obsessed about the whole sexual side of things, but at the same time, it's like it's the basic thing we theoretically have in common,
Mhm.
right? That which is like in itself a misnomer or a hasty generalization. That's not everyone who's gay is into sex, but it's like the most likely thing we have in common and that we can talk about.
And in some cases, it's used as that. It's used as just a means to connect. I mean, it's not that different from when straight guys talk about the hot girl they saw, even if the other person never saw that girl they're talking about. But the fact that the other one can connect and go, oh yeah, that's hot and all that, it kind of allows them to
I guess it ties to
relate.
that kind of banter. Not that I would know, I've never been subject to this sort of broski locker room talk. So, yeah.
So David does add it's related to sexual openness that comes attached and associated with LGBT life.
Generally true, but then again, there are asexual people, or at least people who may not be interested in sex at the moment. So,
Nick and Andre talking about biting, and I will not wonder or dig into why.
yes.
Pico adds, I answer naman sexual questions, but sometimes it gets tiring for every LGBT person that I will have to always go around these topics. I sometimes just start with that just to get it out of the picture. I meet the new person, I'll just tell them already, and so it's
Or maybe,
over.
and you can view it negatively, but at the same time, I think it's just
An honest attempt to.
an honest attempt to connect. It's one of the things that we're usually theoretically have in common, and then it's like easy to throw out. Jay has this whole last year I went to Pride for the first time. It was nice getting and giving free hugs and other freebies. However, I was by myself, and as an introvert, I got a bit overwhelmed. To be fair, last year's Pride was like just overwhelming. There were a lot of people, so even if it was just me and Toby, like it's still a lot. And we had some friends, but there are really times like oh my god, there's so many people.
Yeah, so let's talk about LGBT families. Because the concept is new for some people. For others, they have their own circle of families. And ultimately, I think it's a nice topic to discuss, to share our thoughts about it. And so you people out there watching can comment in and share your thoughts about it as well.
Yeah, and I think it's different for everyone, which is cool. I mean, the chosen family, or oh my god, there's this great RuPaul quote that I turned into an image one time about gay people choose their families and all that. I mean, there's the family you're born with. And it's not to say that you don't love them. That's fine. But then there's also the families that you choose and form around you. And this concept, I feel, ties to how, because whether family means to or not, there is a lot of rejection that happens when you first discover that your child is not straight. And then it hurts to have members of your family view you in this manner. I mean, I went through a very significant, colorful learning period with my family to get everybody on board, and that's okay. That's fine. But then so there is that desire to like construct new construct new sort of not replacement but proxies, I guess, other relationships that make you feel that connected. And I think that's a lot of where the family concept comes along.
Yeah, and in many cases, the family concept does tend to happen because those who have gone through something similar in the past, or at least know about how it can be for others in the past, end up reaching out to the new people or to the young ones to reassure them that, hey, you don't have to go through it alone. You can count on us. You can reach out, and that sense of community does translate into a familial bond in some cases. More so when you realize, these are total strangers who are choosing to care and look out for you.
Yeah.
Quick tangent, Reniel. These were shirts from a friend.
So we're not giving them away. We like them too. They're from a Pride celebration in LA, I think. So
magical to hate.
But thank you for liking the shirts. We're just not going to let go of them. Yeah. So in that sense, and to that point, that's also probably why I also have a lot of like maybe stronger like friendships that have formed, especially over quarantine. Because on Twitter, I try to be that person.
Yes.
Like whenever I see people, especially if we're connected, and I see people who are sad or whatever, going through shit, I will always try to reach out. I will try to, even if it's just a virtual hug message or it's okay. And I always just stress because sometimes they'll be like, "Why are you being so nice?" and whatever. Like, I don't want you to feel like you're alone. You should never feel alone, especially on the internet. But that you're not alone. Because I wished someone would have done this for me growing up, and I think that's that giving back aspect in the general sense. And then of course there are closer friends that we have strong relationship with.
Now historically,
warm.
Yeah. Okay. Historically, I'm not sure if the concept of families would be traced back to drag houses and the like.
I'm sure there's a connection.
Yeah, because that's where a lot of the terminology really started. You had the drag mother, and the drag mother will care for the children and make sure they're okay, have a place to live in, and
yeah. If we're looking at your U.S. ball culture perspective, then there's a strong tie there because literally these are people who were like kicked out of their homes, rejected by their families,
or even rejected by the same community because they weren't good enough or they didn't take time to learn the craft. So
or because even then transgender people were still different, were treated differently than gay people, and they had to like support one another, and hence drag houses, drag families were formed, and to provide that support structure, and they continue to do so until today. So I'm sure there's a connection there, and how we view these sort of circles of friends. Hey,
hello,
Jed.
Jed.
Okay.
Continue. I shall get ice.
Oh, okay. Then, yeah. So those friend circles are very important. And then I don't know per se, like what automatically makes you family. I don't think there's going to be consistent rules about it, right? But then I think it's really because instead of being born into a family or just accepted through quote unquote marriage, it's I think it ties more to Nikki's like, I need to refill my drink also. Pause. But then there is that greater element of choice in figuring out your family connections.
I feel that family boils down to two things. The first is trust. When you break away from what was once a life of hiding or a life of not admitting who you were to yourself.
Sorry, bottoms up.
It's quite scary to start navigating the world with this new identity that you are trying to embrace after denying it for so long. And when people start connecting with you, sad but true, there's a lot of jerks out there who will just, take advantage of the situation, take advantage of your naivete, or
sorry, your what?
Sorry, did I use the word wrong?
What was that?
I will not say
naivete. What's naivete?
Never mind. I will drink more. And
naivete.
Yes.
I don't know.
And ultimately, they will just find ways to get what they want. And and that can, traumatize you in your journey of finding yourself sometimes. That can make you less trusting of other people. That can make you
That's
see
true.
other people as, potential threats or dangers. And so when you find these islands of trust in the community, you find yourself suddenly just, I saw that, David. You find yourself just joyfully suddenly realizing there's someone you can trust. There is a safe harbor in these rough waters. And so that's the first one. It's trust. And then the second one I feel is, I think, if not the word obligation, desperation. Because there have been some who formed families because they didn't really have a choice.
Hello, Josel.
Hey, Giselle.
What else? Okay, sorry. Yes.
Thank you for
Hello.
joining the show. But yeah, there are people who have, due to circumstance or desperation, formed bonds with other people because if they didn't, they would have probably died, or they would have probably, starved or something. And it's from those kind of families that they find themselves at least finding shelter, and in many ways finding themselves.
If you stay to the end of the video, Reniel, you'll get my social handle. Okay, or I think it's in the description of the video. At least some of the major ones.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Okay, I'm gonna get into silly pet peeving, but let's talk about kids. Okay, because it is now as I approach 40 and join Toby across that line. But
spoiler shark judges you.
as I approach 40, I will admit there is a higher preponderance of younger gay people who reach out, and then will also eventually, because of the fact that I am very friendly, personable on Twitter and places like this, then I have had more than one people suddenly try to call me daddy or say that they feel that they are an anak already.
Can you blame them?
And I don't take this in a sexual context. And
but partly there is.
And then in terms of in terms of people who are trying to be appreciative, friendly, I always tell them that I already have a kid. We already have an anak.
Yes.
And that's a very high standard to live up to.
True.
And if you really want to claim to be that close a friend, to be part of our family, then you're gonna have to prove it. Some of these people I've never met in person, so I don't really believe it.
Yeah, there are some who within the first few days of talking to you are like, I'll now call you Daddy Toby and Daddy Rocky.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't even know who that guy is.
Then I figured that's very sexual and I'm not into this scene. So, but there are some that are actual friends, and then they try to do the whole, I feel like I feel like a son, and no, you're not. And then I do try to invite them over for game nights and things like that so that we can hang out in person or invite them to Obar, and none of this happens. So, all tea, all shade. Be very serious. If you're going to be, especially with us, if you're going to be if you want to be part of the family in that sense, it's a lot of work, I think. And that's why there's only one. And he's earned his place very firmly.
But we should stop there, rewind a bit, and explain. So what's an anak?
I don't think we fully...
Because I'm sure some people are like, wait, there are children?
And I don't think there's a rule. Again, it depends on, because we know this other group of friends who are this very large circle, and they are all related. I
think the best way to discuss it is when you form your gay families, the more common one is you find your gay dad, your gay mom, etc., the older figure. But then as you
already go explain.
But then as you get older, you realize the tables start turning, and the people who are now looking for their gay families connect to you and start calling you father.
That's fair,
and that's why it works that way. In our case, we're more aware enough to realize, no, you don't get to call me that because we already call someone our anak, and we're happy to have our anak.
Yeah.
And everyone else defines it differently. So we have a group of friends that defines it in a different way. We have other groups of friends who they don't even term the group says anaks, but they take care of them and
That's true.
watch over them. And that's sort of the way the system works. It's all just labels that we have
System.
embraced
Yeah.
to make sense of the connections we form.
But yeah, we go through what things I guess are familiar, and
Mhm.
we kind of cling to that. So in our case, I mean, it's because Nico's a very, very good friend, and then he has supported us all throughout. I have lost my stream count. Oh, there he is back. And so he supported us all throughout.
Mhm.
He more often than not has been around, and that I think that's like the fundamentals of it. And then it's definitely at the point where my lack of ability to have biological children has to go somewhere, and so it gets poured onto Nico. So I definitely like to spoil Nico.
So Nikki has ng sinilang kasabundong ito. Of course, he's singing. Noel adds, in my gay family, I'm the auntie, pronounced ante. And that's true. When you're unwilling to admit your age, you will accept being called an auntie.
Whoa, whoa! I was not prepared for this. Do not say these things mid-drink.
I have a feeling Noel's gonna demand for a link to be on the show.
Oh my god! And Nico, see, Noel's right. Is Nico guesting tonight? No, Nico is already going to be in charge of our anniversary episode. Not anniversary for the show, but our anniversary is coming up next month, and Nico's gonna handle that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Pico is once again asking for Noel to be the guest. Just saying.
Wow. Nikki says, "Ang basta story."
Because of course he's singing hashtag on brand.
And
It's
Noel
true.
says, "I hate you."
So yeah. So I think
Children.
or not just children, but just that terminology. There is that natural like desire to reclaim or transform traditional family structure terms into something else. I mean, it's only recently like that we have our first godson, and it's funny because it's at least in our case, it's rarely terms that we assign to people. It's terms that people claim, but then we decide if we accept or not, if it makes sense.
Because again, I think it's because it's that general idea of looking for someone you can cling on to that you feel you can trust. I know in my early years of finally being more open about who I was to myself, and that included my early years of going to Obar. I really looked up, and I still do look up to Mon and Rupert.
Oh, totally.
I don't necessarily call them my gay dads, but I definitely see them in the same light as people who I respect as much as my parents. And I am always so deeply touched whenever they make an effort in terms of they remember my birthday, they remember your birthday, they make sure to check on us and say hi even if it's a busy night.
Yeah.
And it's always very heartwarming, and it makes you just feel like you're home.
Yeah. And then but at the same time, we are not the type to call Mon and Rupert Daddy Mon and Daddy Rupert.
Yeah.
Right? They're Mon and Rupert. They're our friends. But there's definitely that deeper friendship, that bond and the like. Then we appreciate that. And if you're still in the call, yay, we love you.
So I shall grab you more ice. You can read out
Always
some of the
leaving for
comments,
ice.
and I
Okay.
shall get the vodka.
David says, in most circles, Ed and I are the bunso. Not much anak dad stuff, but I'll gladly claim the tall bunso role. And that's fair. Okay, because again, you are not this side of 40. So, I mean, you're not close to this side of 40. It may change. But then again, you guys are tall. So, I feel like you will naturally end up finding people like this sooner than later just because of your height. Jed asks, what is your house called? It's not a house, it's a family, but it was christened long ago. We are always Pamilya Egg. And if for a full story, you're going to have to check Baduy Pride, the blog, for what the heck is Pamilya Egg. But yeah, I'm on my the new bottle of Stoli. So, other comments. Nikki asking David, but who do you want to be in Toby and Rocky's family. I don't know if I want David in our family. Not that we don't value him, but they got their own lives, man. We're not there. um, Andre just says he's happy to be included in the group. Uh, what what is this? Wait, now I have to backtrack. What is Nick? Oh, okay. And then Pico and Nikki are conspiring to get Noel as a guest. Yes. It's not like say that's Jed's like House of Egg. No, it's Familia Egg. It doesn't translate. It is what it is. It makes sense as it is. And I value it.
Respect the drag houses.
Yeah. We don't claim to be a drag house, and I'm not supporting Nico's livelihood. Nico is doing very well in his own. I'm very proud of his progress in his career.
Despite never treating his Papa Egg.
Yeah. Despite the fact that it's us treating Nico more often than not, and not the other way around, huh? But it's okay. Oh wow! Now everybody wants to be the next door neighbor.
Oh, we would be very happy.
We would love to have you guys the next door.
If any of you in the next few years becomes extremely wealthy, that you own property, and you would be willing to give all of us a major discount, then we will all buy property around it and live as neighbors.
Yeah, build a little compound for us. It'll be fun. It'll be very Tales of the City, right? So to cite another LGBT media reference that you should watch.
So we've talked about families in general. We've talked about gay mothers, gay dads. We've talked about children. So let's now talk about the lesser known family connections, or at least other topics regarding family.
And where are you going with this?
So here's one hypothetical question.
This is because we're not scripted. I don't know what Toby's gonna say.
So here's one hypothetical situation. So let's say you have your drag mom and drag dad because the two were a couple and they broke up. How do you deal with that? Admittedly, I only found myself thinking about that because it is a reality that sometimes there are couples that eventually find themselves moving in different directions, and it's bad enough in a marriage where they're biologically the children, that they now have to find a way to make sense of this new normal for them, wherein their parents are not their mother and father in terms of in the household, and that sort of a challenge can be life-changing if not traumatic. Then I found myself thinking, in a gay family mindset, this was the family you formed as your survival mechanism.
That's true.
And then they break up. So how does one deal with that?
Well, I think it goes back to like the whole, what is your friendship about? And then like, I mean, I didn't have a gay family in my previous relationship, but I went through that inadvertent feeling of the division of friends, right? Then how during a breakup, some people take sides, and they don't. No harm, no foul. I mean, sometimes it's just because you're really just closer to one person or the other, and you just lean towards there, and you don't have a good relation, a strong enough friendship foundation on your own with the other person. Sometimes it depends on the nature of the breakup. And if something bad happened, then you naturally side with the aggrieved party, so to speak, and then that happens. But then if it's just an amicable breakup, then I think there should be nothing wrong with feeling that you can still be friends with both. But I will feel that the family analogy becomes a little more difficult to push.
More so if one of the two finds a new partner.
Yeah.
And then what do you call that person? Do we now have stepdads?
I'm not a big fan of automatically like because you marry into a family structure, you're part of the family. I sound a little traditional in this manner, but it's just because there are a bunch of people you don't know, you haven't been through those experiences. So I mean, to some degree, I experienced that when I first met my ex's group of friends, and like it's overwhelming because it's such a big group, and they have their sort of hierarchy, and they all had their own nicknames for each other, and like I don't know.
Nick, I'll share because you mentioned it in the comment. It happened to me. What happened to me was that there was a break that happened. I just went to a common friend's birthday party where one half of the couple was there. Yeah, it's tricky to navigate these waters sometimes, especially when there's always at least one side that feels strongly about the events. And then it even gets harder when the other side seems to be quite fine.
And the story's not done. Then the other half invites me to catch a show with just the two of us, and I still had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine because again, breakups don't exactly have to be published in a national distribution newspaper for it to become legal. They just happen, and then it's really up to the couple to
I
decide.
got another one. I just got rid of the earlier one.
Why are you so angry at the reusable ice
They
cube?
always go to me.
And because you brought them into this house.
But
you are the one
I
who
grabbed
brought
the
the
ice.
tumbler.
Wait. Do you have one too? Is that one? Is that one? Is that one? No, they're all natural.
Nope,
ice.
these are all regular ice cubes.
Okay. Yeah. What else?
But yeah, so I mean, it's
Breakups.
difficult, but I'm sure you're still going to be close friends with one or both members of
Hey, McCoy.
that relationship. But I don't necessarily think you have to rub it in their faces that it's mom and dad. I mean, maybe for a while you can joke about there was a divorce, but I don't know. I mean, I once wrote a very long, not very long, but I once wrote a blog post about how when friends break up, with this, it's like the worst thing when other friends are like, we were rooting for you, or why'd you break up? What do you think? This hurts me. It's like, don't add to their pain. Okay, breakups are complicated.
It's not about you.
It's not about you.
And no matter how invested you were, it's still not about you.
Yeah. So
I personally feel when those type of statements are stated, the person who's talking to you is clearly still thinking about themselves and not about your relationship.
We're not your entertainment. This is not a ship. That thing. So you can move beyond that.
Now in a LGBT family circle or family unit, it gets weirder because admittedly, I guess rightfully so, the rules are ours to make.
That's true.
Given we are living in lives which other people will judge as not normal or not typical or not ordinary, and then
then all the rules are out the window.
F them for thinking that, then we'll embrace that. But at the same time, we find ourselves also sometimes confused now how to handle things. I mean, what do you do when someone you find really hot and you'd really like to sleep with suddenly says, "Can I call you my daddy?" And then not in a sexual sense. So suddenly you feel like you don't want to ruin this because it's a nice connection, but
the friendship is important.
But you wanted to, and then worse later they admit to you that they wanted to, and it's that interesting thing about how we sometimes can complicate our own lives by choosing certain labels without really thinking about the ramifications the labels bring.
Yes, there is that, and then and I say this in all honesty as a guy who has no qualms with sleeping with friends. I mean, like, if everybody's consenting, then it's fine. But the terms can get in the way. Please laugh. So it will vary from person to person, from gay family to gay family, from relationship. Whether you call yourself a family, a clique, a crew. I've heard these terms thrown around by some friends. It's interesting. But each grouping, each association has their own rules. Like
no sleeping with family, or others would have only sleep with family.
Or like you only sleep with the first generation, but the second generation you don't with anymore. So whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you, as long as there's consent, as long as you're all adult, in making these decisions, then it's fine.
But part of the realization is the fact that we are a world with different opinions, different mindsets. So, in as much as you will say "f you," this is how I'll choose to define things. You have to realize that there will always be people who will also say "f you." It's weird for me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they have every right to see it that way too.
Consent is important.
Mhm.
Okay, David's like the terms can get in the way. The relationship is more important than the label. And then Jobo on Facebook says terms get in the way, featuring Gloria Estefan. So yes, it's true. I mean, but terms are.
Sorry,
Oh,
I saw
Noel.
Noel.
Okay, terms are helpful in the right context, but
Mhm.
we should never ever feel limited by them.
Mhm.
And then again, the terminology also may have different meaning for the specific group,
I
right?
think terms are only really important when one, it's a medical situation. So please don't invent terms. Tell us really what you're allergic to, or tell us really what you're suffering
I'm trying to
from.
understand where Toby's going. We've been watching a lot of forensic files, so medical.
Two, if it's a English or spelling bee. So I don't care if you feel you're being
What are these
diverse.
examples? They're so terrible.
The words have a proper meaning. That's the context. But ultimately, yeah, beyond that, we define our reality. We define our relationships with people. And that comes with the realization and the responsibility of accepting the fact that others will choose to do that too.
Nikki adds payment terms. Terms are very important in payment terms.
True. So yeah, so you might decide to say, I don't care what this is called. You and I have something. But if the person says, I want to know if we're in a relationship, then you have to at least
Be clear.
be clear about that, because that person needs to understand what's going on. And if you just choose to willy-nilly change the terms as you see fit, then
That's so cute, willy nilly. Yes, I know it's a term, but it's just so funny hearing Toby use it. Makes him sound a little older, no?
I am older.
Willy nilly.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying.
I love this man. I've been with him for over 11 years. Oh my god. Okay, so
Bum, 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 bum.
unrelated commercial. See, did you hear that? You hear that? Toby's like ba bum bum bum, and then I'm like, what? And then he goes lollipop, and then like, what? Right? And then it just
It's a song by the Tridettes.
it did not dawn on me immediately. And then of course he plays it, and we all know that it's lollipop, lollipop, oh la la lollipop. But the one line he uses to tell me what song he's thinking of is
Bum,
bum bum.
bum, bum. Oh,
Why? Why is this a thing? So
because that's how my
and
brain
this
works.
and this is what I deal with every day in quarantine while we're working from home.
like earlier, we were watching Discovery, and as we were watching the
Star Trek Discovery.
the second episode of Discovery, I'm watching and I go, I know him from somewhere. And Rocky's like, oh no, here we go again. And I'm like, hurry, what are the shows we've been watching recently? I know he's a villain. And Rocky's like, I'm not getting it.
I'm not even bothering. I'm not even looking up
And I'm
for
like,
shows.
in my head, Forensic Files. No, not Forensic Files. There was that other one, Unsolved Mysteries. No, it wasn't Unsolved Mysteries. There's a villain. There's a villain. There's a villain. Finally, I realized it's Homeland.
Which Toby has been watching on his own because
catch
he's trying to catch up to me
Yes.
so that we can watch the season together.
But my brain works that way. My brain works with specific details that I lock into and I know I understand from a certain perspective. And it's so hard for me to translate sometimes. Yeah. Bum, 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 bum. So
Oh my
yeah,
God.
choosing family within LGBT circle.
Yeah, so if people are thinking of joining this family, be careful of what you're getting into because, yeah, Toby is Toby.
Mhm.
It's a whole thing. So,
How about LGBT families that involve actual family members?
what do you mean?
Like I'm sure there are some who maybe they've only come out to their sister. And now in some ways the sister's like the drag mom because she can't rely on her actual mom to take care of her. And she now sees her sister as her mother figure and stuff like that.
Wow, I don't know where to touch that. That's complicated.
Yeah, but I'm sure there are some instances like that.
Or
we've seen some shows wherein you have families like that wherein the family doesn't know yet and it's only the sister who knows or stuff like that. And I just find myself wondering, in times like that, do they even reach a point where they define it that way, or do they not even see it as a gay LGBT family and just see it as
it's just family.
You're who I see as mom? Because
I mean, to be fair,
but that's what a gay family is basically. When you identify someone else as that family member,
as a closer tie. I know of people who have broken up, but the mom or the whatever one of the parents is still in contact with the ex because they just got that close.
And sometimes they're even closer to the ex.
Yes. Than their own son.
That the mom would be like, I'll be going out with Ganyan. Like, what? That's my ex. Yeah, we're just shopping. And the mom leaves.
And you can't really dictate that, right? Because again, everyone's an adult in this context. Your parents or your family member who makes their own friendship relationship with your significant other or former significant other are free to do whatever they want. And you just gotta respect it. I mean, at the same way, because saying that your family can't be friends with your ex is like saying none of your friends can be friends with your ex, and that's just not possible.
I'm
it's
sorry.
Not fair.
That's just kindergarten.
Yeah. It's not like di na tayo bate, and then because di na tayo bate,
you can't be friends with them because you're my friends.
Yeah. So you can't dictate what everybody does, and so it let people be. People will define their own individual relationships with people, and you gotta respect that.
Okay, Nick had a moment of, are these biological moms?
Yes, I know of biological mothers who are friends with the exes of their own son. Yes, I have met that.
Other comments, Pico adds, context is really not enough. Clarity is also important, especially kung going deal breaker na in terms. That's true. The fact that there are deal breaker things means context is very, very important.
Yeah, I think did we talk about this somewhere, that when you figure out sort of what are your principles, what are your non-negotiables, and then these are things that may come up as possible non-negotiables.
David adds, I totally relate that my mind is just a series of connections with obscure references. David, we are so connecting.
I hope at least you can name your references, and it's not like, hey, I think that's the guy from that movie with the girl, with the kid.
And they were trying to do something.
And what's more annoying is that he has done this more than once. It is the movie with the guy and the girl.
Because in my mind, I'm visualizing the specific instance and I'm not actually able to describe it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we do not join trivia nights. Because I'm sure all of Toby's answers are going to be, oh. That movie where the thing happened.
It's the movie where the guy was the lead with the actress from that other movie where it's about a family that fled China.
We can't do quiz nights. And then I've already said, like, if we're ever going to go on reality TV, I may pick another partner. I need to pick a more reliable friend as a partner for the challenges. So
I agree.
Just saying.
We're good competitively. But we're cooperatively, we would both be struggling. And that's because it's a contest. The thing where guy was talking to the girl, where she was in the... See? Oh my gosh, David, we can have conversations that no one will understand. We'd be the perfect intelligence.
I'm not sure if the two of you will understand that you're talking about the same thing.
Oh, we might. Because remember, David, that time we talked about that thing wherein there was that topic about the thing? Yeah.
Nikki's like, I so miss hanging out at Fandom Cafe now.
Well, circles. Let's go back to the
circle of friends.
What else are there about LGBT circles that we have not touched on or considered or talked about? Do circles end?
Yes. Sadly.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, again, I point back to like the Obar table situation where the people we hang out with have changed over the years. I can identify like different eras, so to speak, of friends that we were regularly in contact with, and despite our best efforts, sometimes it's beyond us because people's lives change, people's context change, people move
geographically.
There are basic geographic changes that get in the way,
and we cannot remove, of course, the fact that there are instances where people don't have good endings with certain people, and so one side ends up having to leave,
or especially because since a lot of our queer friendships are tied to Obar, then you will always have those people who feel like they need to graduate or retire from the scene, especially if they have a particular boyfriend who doesn't like the bar scene or is not comfy with the bar scene. Then we've quote unquote lost friends that way.
Oh my God, Andre! How dare you?
Right?
How dare you, Andre?
What did he say?
Toby sounds like Laganja getting mad at a door. What?
No.
What?
That's very weird. That imperils your being invited over for games.
I'm gonna get ice and I'm gonna be serious.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, things change. So I definitely think that your friend circles change, and that's why it becomes all the more important to pay attention to who stay. And I think from a personal context, then that really sort of for us defines the quality of then maybe these are like your really core family members, so to speak. This is like the closer circle of friends that fortunately, because of your context together, your schedules, all these things align, then all the more you can be together. And that's it. It doesn't necessarily the label, but these are definitely your more important friends. So embrace that and go with that. Totally not a bad thing. Wow, we've been at this for a while. It's about for an hour. Wow, I think is weird emoji comment. I will clear that out after all this is said and done. And then people are getting drinks. Okay, so what else really is that you shouldn't feel obligated. I mean, our context is always very Obar centric, but then it doesn't necessarily mean that your quote unquote LGBT circle of friends is strictly Obar. There are a lot of people who say they aren't bar people, and that's fine. And maybe you bond in other ways. That who there are people who just have house parties a lot, and that's cool. And whatever social activity works for you. Nikki says, maybe I'm the glue that holds my friends together. So far, wala pa naman ako dissolve the group. Little do you know, Nick. No, I'm kidding. No, but I appreciate that, Nick. We joke about 6 degrees of Nick separating the world, but you are definitely a source of light and energy for many people, and everyone is fortunate to know you.
Yes,
and
that's true.
We may not necessarily identify you with a familial term, but you are definitely in our close circle of friends.
The new comment
says he loves our videos. All of my friends here in Brazil love to. Oh my God, we hope to go to Obar someday together. You guys are amazing. I'm glad you appreciate the Obar videos. If ever you find yourself in the Philippines in a post-quarantine situation, I hope you get to go to Obar.
Yes, and do please say hi if you do get the chance.
Yes, I just cannot read your name. Okay.
Yes.
Then yeah. So I was just talking about. So we were talking about circles ending. Then I talked about like our context is important. You're not limited to meeting in blatantly gay spaces. Your friends don't have to be. Your gay friends don't just have to be bar friends. It's like once upon a time. Oh my God, I'm gonna date myself. Once upon a time, like there were groups of friends strictly because they all chatted on like an IRC channel, right? There's a bunch of people who knew each other from Bay Manila, or these things. Okay, I was a proud Bay Manila, and I feel ashamed now to say, oh my God, wait, I was in a channel called Bay Manila. Because obviously it bought into the improper definition of bi, but whatever. It was the late 90s. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I mean there are different ways that people connect. we often make
ADB started in that way also.
Toby as a Lasallian gay friend group.
I didn't create it, but I was part of a group called ADB or Animo Dugong Verde, which was all about gay Lasallians. Um, and yeah, the circles are there. People form the circles because it finds them ways or places that they can connect with. And I don't feel that there's any reason. What's going on?
Nikki was not at the computer when we were singing his praises. So now he's like, wait, were you talking about me? Yes, Nikki.
Nick, we were
We're talking about you because we love you. Because you're precious. Okay. And then
But yeah, I don't see why you shouldn't have the freedom to jump around circles you want to. I don't think anyone has a right to say, since you're hanging out with us, you shouldn't hang out with them unless there is something criminal or legal behind that reasoning. I mean, if that other circle had someone who attacked or assaulted you or beat you up, then fine, you have every right to say don't hang out with them.
that might be a concern, and maybe you should discuss it.
But if it's something like, oh, but you're our friend, so why are you hanging out with them?
Again,
sorry,
kindergarten. Yeah.
Um,
I like how Toby went straight to kindergarten. It wasn't even like a grade school, high school thing.
no, grade school, it makes more sense. Grade school is, I don't like you because I don't like your face.
Wow. Toby had an interesting upbringing in Don Bosco.
Wait,
Okay.
no, yeah, grade school was Don Bosco. I started.
I know
I
your
started
school
Don
history.
I was prepped in Don Bosco.
Noel was already like, what was my handle? Well, I don't remember. I'm sure it was a transformer. It was either Grimlock 88 or Soundwave, or it was always a transformer.
McCoy adds, I find introducing one friend from one circle to another circle very stressful. I get anxious. My mind thinks, you're my friend. He's my friend. Get along. Yes, I get that. But what helped me with that was the realization that people ultimately are not obligated to like your friends.
Yes, sorry. I totally understand that
Stress.
feeling.
Yes,
No,
yes.
because last year, right, I had my big Obar birthday party at Obar, and I invited sort of office mates, gaming friends, regular Obar friends, other queer friends who don't go to Obar as much. So it was a weird intersection, and there was that pressure on me and Toby to entertain everyone because we were the common factor, right? Because we not necessarily everyone knew each other easily enough to talk and stuff, and so there was that as sort of hosting the event. Then we should call it an event. We had two tables, okay? We had two tables at home, but we were like constantly going around making sure everybody's okay. So yes, that stress is real, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you have to make sure that everybody talks. I mean, you introduce them and then you go from there, and that's fine. But it's like, well, that's why. And then they're just pick your battles. Like, I know for me, our running gag is always introducing every group of friends to Nico. It's always like, hey, this is our anak. Without fully explaining what that means. But this is our anak, Nico. Super proud of him. Blah, blah, blah. He's like the person you need to know.
David, we're now all wondering, what's AGS?
It's Ateneo Grade School.
I love you. Why can't you say anything?
I'm just saying. I'm just providing the definition so that people on YouTube can stop asking what AGS is. It's Ateneo Grade School.
So why is AGS so prominent?
No, because in context to your weird Bosconian,
Yeah, but David says AGS kids can't relate. So what's AGS kid life like? Are you all happily friends?
Apparently, we don't have weird arguments like you do in Don Bosco.
Well, in Don Bosco, you have to realize it's a very exclusive all boys school. So we're all very territorial. Oh my god, that reminds me. There was some time like in grade 1, I claimed ownership over this swing that whenever I was leaving it, I would tie it up against the bar so no one could use it. And then there reached a point when I got there were a bunch of kids who were trying to untangle it. And then the security guard goes to them, "Hoy! Hoy! Kaya Baduy." So yeah. Jova replies
This is the
to
man I love.
McCoy, you can do it, the man, as formality. You just need to understand that they will not get together most of the time. Not
Yeah,
most of the time.
like in Obar nights when we gather a lot of different people, we feel our only obligation is to introduce everyone at the table. Then it's
Mhm.
always like, hey, person A, this is person B, C, and D. Person B, this is C, D, E. But then to all of them, this is Nico. He's our anak. You need to know who he is.
And we have also that, okay, you won't know each other, you won't remember each other's names anyway, so please talk.
Yeah, that's like if we'll help you with drinks and all that. But then beyond that, I think our only obligation is to introduce you to one another, and we won't even provide context of how we know
Okay.
you, except for Nico.
So again, going back to circles. I'd like to throw out the question to everyone who's watching, and feel free to comment your answers. What was the earliest circle you had that was not necessarily in an LGBT context, but did you have your first initial "these are my best friends," or did you have your "these are my neighborhood barkada," or what was your initial circles? In mine, um, my childhood is weird because
You think? No.
because when I was really young, I was under the shadow of my brother, who was awesome.
Wait. Only a tabletop role player will use the term "under the shadow of my brother."
No, because it's true.
What is this?
Because
my influence ranges deep. You are in my thrall.
during the first few conscious years of
I have to use the bathroom. I'm concerned about Jed's first circle.
Oh my God. Okay, I'd like to know more about that, Jed. Do write more about that. But when I was young, a lot of my earlier years, and I don't say this with regret or complaint. Okay, it's just a matter of fact. But a lot of my early years was getting stuff that my brother was already celebrating. And I do not, I hope this does not sound like I'm complaining. Um, my brother would be, excuse me, my brother would be super into Robotech because it was big in that time. And I would end up getting large robots as well as gifts. My brother was super into He-Man. And so I would also get He-Man toys. And it wasn't bad at all. I was very happy to, play with the stuff that he was into. It wasn't until years later that my sister was born, and then I started realizing that I was connecting with her group of friends as well. So I was suddenly into Play-Doh. I was suddenly playing Playmobil, and oh my God, what were those? What were those called? The ones that had those secret treasure gems thing when you open it up. I'm sure Noel will be the one who'll comment. Hidden secrets, secret treasures, or something like that.
I have no idea.
There are those small figures, and then you pop them open, and they have a gem that they hide inside their chest or something.
I've never had a toy with a hidden gem in their chest.
But yeah, so I had a lot of that in my younger years, and then what I found as me finding my own interests was diving into really weird dark shit. Like no, I don't think it was Kinder Egg, I'm afraid. It was something else. But I remember, like, I started getting into poetry. I started getting into creative stuff. And one of my first poems that my mom saved, and she still has that paper somewhere in an album, was, "Oh frog so fat, you are now flat. I guess you're loved by the flies because you have died." And that was me as a kid. So in many ways, my earlier circles,
should I be concerned, ladies and gentlemen?
My earlier circles.
What's worse is this is not the first time Toby has recited this poem. No, it's like Polly Pocket.
Oh yes, see, I knew it. I knew you'd remember Noel. So yes, it was Polly Pocket. Because
Polly Pocket.
I guess that's the name. It sounds familiar.
This is the girl's toy.
Yes, because there was a time I was playing a lot of the stuff my brother was into. And then when Tracy was born, I started to hang out with her friends as well. So I was getting into Play-Doh, Polly Pocket, Playmobil, and all this and that.
Okay.
And that's where I found my niche, which was horror movies, scary stuff. When Ghostbusters came out, I loved the slime toys. Um, I tended to get the villain stuff. So my brother would be He-Man, I'd be Skeletor. He'd get the Ninja Turtles, I'd get Bebop and Rocksteady. It was that sort of a thing. And I kind of found my circle eventually in school when I found people who were into weird stuff as well.
Mm.
I remember at one point we were kind of really dark as kids. You know,
Kinda?
yeah. We had like this. I guess it was our version of a Death Note. It was like a book where we write down stuff we found interesting in obituaries we read. So yeah, I was weird as a kid. Oh, Nick also gets Polly Pocket. I'm sorry, I didn't catch it earlier. I'm sorry, Nick.
My context is super different then because again, I really didn't do friends well. In the sense that okay, let's put things into perspective. We spent 2 years in the U.S. in the late 80s.
Mhm.
I come back here. I had to repeat kindergarten because I was not old enough for Ateneo Prep. Because my birthday is in the cusp period, you must be 5.5 years old by so and so month to apply for prep, and I was not old enough, so I did kinder again. But then to add insult to injury, I needed glasses in kindergarten
Mhm.
because of astigmatism. So here I am, fresh in the country with glasses in a new school, and everybody makes fun of the way I talk because I was speaking Californian English. Um, so that really didn't help. And then in sort of the context of like, and parents always telling you that you should study because you're very smart and you should push that. Then I kind of accepted the nerd model. Then nerds don't need friends. So I am the type who would read during lunch and not bother talking to people all that often. I wasn't antisocial. I was like politely friendly. I could carry conversations, but I was not really super invested.
Mhm.
And then I was the type who always became like starting grade 4, you have elections in Ateneo grade school. Then starting grade 4, I was always class president. And as a grade 4, grade 5, no, as a grade 5 student who reads Dune,
Mhm.
which totally changes the way you think about politics, then I figured that I must be politely friendly with everyone but not appear to be on anyone's side.
Yes.
So I never formed a barkada or a group. Oh my God, it's Patricia.
So you were very Alan Burr. Hey, Patricia.
No, because I'm not waiting for what I want. I get what I want, but I did not strongly side with anyone.
Mhm. So real quick to go through the comments of others who shared. Pico shares, my younger days weren't that entirely exciting. I wasn't smart enough to maintain friends due to me being an awkward gay person. I eventually get one in college na. They are my thesis group mates. They're a bunch that eventually ended with my good friend moved to Sydney before graduation. It's an initial circle. I'll probably hang out with them and all this and that. Noel also shared. Where was
He
that?
says in high school we
There.
called ourselves OBZ, Omega Beta Zeta. We're the biggest openly gay group in high school in the history of the Sal Green Hills. I think there are about 30 plus friends as a group. Wow, that's saying something. I did not figure out my sexuality until later in life.
McCoy says, first gay group of friends would be the FSR.
So cool, you guys
G for
have
M
names.
days. Yeah, it's awesome. Jed shares, Marco and I founded a group of LGBT DJs. We
that's
introduced
cool.
them to people, passing on opportunities to play to them because we wanted to grow the group. Later, we were slowly pushed out, keeping new gigs for themselves. They play at Nectar now.
Okay. And then,
I
hey,
will not comment.
on a side note, our viewer from Brazil is named Gabriel. Thank you for changing your name so that we can read it.
Hey, Gabriel.
Thank you for staying on the stream. We
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you for staying. We try to do this every night at around 9 p.m.
because
Philippine time.
we can't go to Obar because it's not open. So that's why we're here.
So we'd love to have you join us more often. Kino also adds, first real circle was in college. 4 closeted guys who met in a Christian org. Speaking of religion, I was a very religious
Wait,
child.
Patricia is here too. Hi, Patricia.
Yeah, Patricia, we miss you. I was a very religious child. I was part of the Knights of the Altar. I was part of the Savio Kids. One of my earliest elocution contests was the story of Jesus commanding the storm. I loved reading the Bible, Revelations mostly, but
I knew it. I knew it. We're gonna get to Revelations. All the serpenty stuff.
Jobo ads.
And sort of. Oh, sorry. And just
Okay.
finishing my whatever story.
Sure. Sorry.
In high school, I didn't really have a group of friends. Too much Dune in my head. Also, struggling with the fact that I was realizing I wasn't straight.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized it in high school. And because of my fear that my parents would find out, then I decided I am not going to make a mess in my own backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So I would never, ever
See anyone.
date or hook up
Mhm.
with an Atenean. And then I totally fished way outside the pond. So I was struggling with this, figuring out and then hiding it. So all the more I didn't really feel comfortable making friends in high school. At most, I had the student council because I was active in the student council more as a volunteer. And it didn't go anywhere. And then by college, I was so tired from the student council, I decided I wasn't even going to join an org. I was just going to focus on school. But then really, it's because...
You just want to get out.
No, also because I ended up having a boyfriend secretly who didn't go to this school, and we were trying to figure out how to have a relationship without people knowing.
Yeah.
So I don't have a good history with like making friends. And then again, that first circle was like my ex's circle of friends, which was okay. But then I couldn't really like relate to all of them. And then I'm still friends with some, but not as much. And then so I think it's only now that when I got together with Toby and then we started going to Obar, that I really started forming a more interesting group. But then I still don't necessarily feel like we have a super tight like true barkada, and because there's not like a group that we have to go out all the time.
But I think that's also partly because you're defining true barkada as that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's a constraint because really, especially in understanding of people's schedules and stuff. Now I'm just generally like I'm happy to see people. I just don't expect them. That's a little jaded. Let's catch up on comments.
There, Jed. That's why Marco and I keep up to ourselves mostly now. We're afraid of circles. I quite understand.
I feel that ties back to that earlier answer about over time you become a lot more discerning, a lot more careful, a lot more guarded.
There's
Gabriel.
there.
Gabriel says my first gay group. We consider each other as sisters. I met them in 2018 League of Legends. That is like the introduction to a super awesome story. Okay. Jobo says his first gay group family was actually a butterfly at Tomas Morato because your first gay bar and you went out of curiosity. And it's nice when you form that bond, especially when you're first exploring a LGBT-ish safe space. We feel that way too. Like I think that's how at Obar we have this running gag of not really gag, but running offer of like when we know it's a person's first time at O, especially for a friend, then we really try to make sure they have a good time or we take care of them more. We're probably going to apply it with free alcohol, things like that.
Because we just want them to stop worrying and just enjoy the night.
Aside, Revelations is such a Toby book, David says. McCoy, I guess referring to Butterfly.
So Nick adds, my first LGBT group was with you and our catch friends. He mentioned that to Jobo.
Yeah, because technically our friendship with Nikki was mostly because of geek friends, theater friends. And then, surprise! I didn't realize we were also LGBT friends because we never asked. Okay. Gabriel, mark on my clock. Your live is at midday 12. Oh, that means you're sort of aligned with like Central Time US. It is 11 p.m. here. I know 12 is later. So further than Eastern.
Yeah,
okay.
if you're unable to join us live, the episodes are recorded, so you'll still be able to catch them whenever you want to.
Yeah, until I get new Obar videos to post, this is what we get. So, Patricia's like, oh,
if my patience got off because my classmates
teaching a lot,
I was fighting back.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Bullying is rough, but it's like it happens a lot. It shouldn't happen, but it still happens a lot.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
And for some people, they do that because that gives them the sense of meaning. They don't realize that they can have meaning if they just look into what they can accomplish rather than by making others feel like crap.
Pico says his college club was kind of unusual because he reached out to write an article that eventually became editor in chief, along with a small newsletter. Why not? Hey, that's cool. At least you got to write. I did a lot of my writing in grade school, and then was burned out and didn't write in the school publications in high school. I have these weird, like, I get burned out quickly and not bother. Okay. So, wow. And then Art J Music says, hello.
Hi,
hello.
RJ.
Welcome to the stream.
Welcome to the stream.
So,
oh, wow. We're at 16 viewers. That's a shock.
We're at 14, really, because, 2 of them are you.
No, it's 18.
Oh, okay. Then, yeah.
16.
My eyesight's not great.
So,
Lar.
Hey, Lar. Circles. So it's nice to hear from everyone who shared that their own
respective circle
respective
stories.
or initial circles. Which then brings me to the next question. Why does it have to be a circle? Is it because we don't want to count the number of people that are involved? Because if we say triangle, then it's only 3. If we say
I don't want to answer this question. It's such a Toby question.
I mean, why not,
social squares, social hexagons,
our social rhombus.
I live with this man. I deal with him every day in quarantine. Why? So yeah. So and thank you for sharing, Patricia. I'm not gonna reiterate your whole story. This seems like this is very yours, but at the same time, don't let them get to you.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like bullying and all that stuff, it's just a lot of insecurity that people are projecting onto you. Don't let them bother you.
Yeah.
You know who you are. You know why you're great. Move forward.
And the fact that you are aware of this already shows you're ahead of them as far as the race of life is concerned.
There, see, David has offered that the 2 of you can talk about your social shapes. But beware, David's proclivity for math means that you may have more complex shapes.
That's okay. I think I can handle David's shape. So, Patricia, as I was saying, I myself, Patricia, had my share of bullying when I was in school before. I had upper classmates who would throw small rocks at me when I was in the lower levels. I even had some point in time wherein some people tried to beat me up in school. All I'm saying is it does get better. You will find people who will respect you and understand you more. And the last thing you want to do is make your world revolve around those who are treating you in a bad way. They're not the world.
Nikki, interesting shares. Like, I don't realize sometimes new people may not necessarily feel comfortable with us, or my other friends may not feel comfortable with the new people. It's a hard balance sometimes. That's super true. That's super true. And I feel like we go through this exercise every time we bring someone to Obar. And then there's that, it's like an audition. Like, we want people to love Obar as much as we do. But then, we can't really define that experience for everyone. There are some people who are just not comfortable in crowds. And if they decide to go to Obar for the first time on a Saturday night, oh my gosh, we're in for a ride. So, that it can't always be. But, you do your best. You help them. You help them as the friend that they know. And then if you do your best, that's all that can be asked. And you'll go from there.
Thank you, Gabriel. I'm not sure how to say it, but thank you for sharing. I'm sure that'll help. Thank you so much for sharing that.
We all have our sources of strength to keep going forward. And all these terms sound friendship, polygons, and polygamy.
Well, some shapes do have infinite sides. So I don't get sides. Wait. No, that's a topic for a different night. Shoots a new episode suggestion with Toby and David as guests.
Wow, we should have you two talk.
Yeah. Pico, why is Rocky not part of this picture? Pico, what are you thinking?
Because no. Okay, so
What's the best day to join you guys at Obar Nights? The moment it's open. Because it doesn't matter when. In fact,
there will always be a lot of people. It's just sometimes there's
Yes.
even more people.
Mhm.
But we will do our best to take care of you when you're there.
Mhm.
That's like our commitment to people that go with us.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think that's the very least. Then and we'll try to make sure that you have a decent time or at least have a place to put your drinks.
Mhm.
I mean, we'll find out more in the new normal context, and we see how Obar manages to open in the future.
Yes.
But yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I mean, if you really, really, really hate crowds, I think your best decent compromise is a Friday night. A Friday night means a higher likelihood of of a good show. I mean, all the shows are good, but then shows are a bit more. There's a bit more effort and sometimes thematic themes to the shows on Fridays and Saturdays. I
Yes.
would recommend Friday as a nice breaking in point. And then Job, of course, I remember the one time that you took care of it. Yeah, because as long as they're friends, of course, Noel will vote for Friday for Obar. Yes, if you want to go to Obar, yes, then I'll say definitely Friday because you have a better chance of seeing Noel.
And Noel won't have to run off after the second set to vanish because we're four.
Yeah. Um. Obar is no longer every day. There
Mhm.
used to be a time that it was. Now it's Thursday to Sunday. We will. I don't know about moving forward, but it's Thursday to Sunday.
Mhm.
Sundays and Thursdays, you want to dance? Yes, that's totally true. Okay. What else? And I know this is starting to get a little rambling, so that's fine. That's alcohol.
Patricia, I'm seeing you're sharing a lot, and I just like to add again that you have a lot of other friends that you can count on. We're strangers, but we're still rooting for you. I'm sure many others in the comments would also be rooting for you. So don't let them get you down. The pandemic is in some ways a good chance to recharge, to find yourself, because now that you're able to stay home a bit more, don't ever let the bullies win. Um, Other than that, let's look at the others. Oh, lots of people.
Everybody's just cheering on Pico for noting that Friday is the day that he will go to Obar.
And I think we're all just really fatigued from the pandemic, and we just really want to dance with somebody. We just really want to get out to enjoy the night.
Literally speaking, before this episode started, we were dancing to Kylie like idiots the camera was like on but not broadcasting. I could see what we were doing, and like, oh my god, we're kind of cringy when we dance. But dancing is all about what you feel, and you go for it. Yeah. So what? I don't know. Final thoughts, I guess, because this has been going on for a while. But what else do we want to add about the whole LGBT family?
I think I will close this topic with the fact that I know there are the unsung heroes. I know there are people in my past who have in some ways or another helped me as a circle I did not recognize or a circle I neglected to identify with.
Hmm.
Like now looking back and thinking hard about it, I know during my religious years when I was still, I was an altar boy. I was serving in church and all this and that, and I now look back and think there was a brother in Don Bosco who kinda, I guess, realized I wasn't straight.
Okay.
Because I sort of recall he was the type of brother who was always, oh, but you don't have to if you don't feel like this is for you. And it was always that sort of an approach. And I never really recognized that before. I also realize now that I've had aunts and I had titas, titas being our general term in the Philippines for anyone who's friends of our parents, but not related in family.
Nikki's like, hashtag altar boy.
Yes. Yeah, I knelt a lot. So, yeah, I realize now that there are people who have been supportive and I never really acknowledged or realized them. And in many cases, I don't even remember who they are now.
And now Toby just serves bad jokes. That is true.
So I think that's also something that we should consider, that we are we are ultimately a world of people. We are a world that is a society by its definition, that we are different people in different social circles. And there are often times that we are part of circles we don't realize.
Mm.
We are in circles that others see us in, and we might have never realized it. And in many ways, they have even helped us without us knowing it. So, if ever you feel you're not important, you're not good enough, you're not doing anything meaningful, you'd be surprised how there are actually people who have appreciated you, been thankful you were there, or realized that something you did, and even more interestingly, it was something you did without even thinking about it consciously, has made a difference in their lives. So don't ever think that you are not worth it.
And Nikki's already singing Once on This Island.
Mhm.
Because we are part of the humor. I will come from the other direction and
Mhm.
say friendships need a lot of work.
Yes, that's true. That's so
Um,
true. It's not a magic. It's not like movies.
just because you see each other at the same bar every week doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best of friends.
Mhm.
I mean, it depends on what conversations you actually have, what effort you make to communicate outside of
Mhm.
that context. Is there more to the friendship? And in that sense, then maybe I can sound. I mean, this probably ties to the fact that I have been largely introverted, antisocial most of my life, and um, I I have very high walls, I'll
Mhm.
admit, with friends. And it just so happens that my walls look very sociable
Mhm.
because I don't know, I'm a bit of a chameleon in that respect. I have conduct. I was a trainer in terms of work for many years, so I knew how to put on that hat, that
Mhm.
face.
Hey,
Um,
Mitch.
but in the end, it's like friendships need a lot of work, and especially if you want to say that you want to treat someone as family, that you say that they are your gay dad or parent or aunt or brother, whatever. Um,
Mhm.
I guess be careful about these terms. Be careful about that kind of offer of commitment and do the work. Make
Yes.
sure you stay in touch. Make sure you reach out, even if
Mhm.
it's just online. Um, build, keep that regular connection, because
Yes.
then you really feel it. Then it really matters because, um, especially now. And then we've had a lot of reflections with friends over this quarantine period. And think about who are the people you actually talk to during this quarantine period.
Mhm.
Who are the people that you actually have video calls with on a regular basis?
Mhm.
Who are the people you weren't expecting to hear from, but you hear from?
Mhm.
These are all things that you may want to think about, and like who who are the people that you end up showing value to, and who are the people who show value to you in turn.
Mhm.
Um, and kind of go from there and just think about your priorities. And the term friend is very loosely thrown around, and
Mhm.
that's natural, especially in a social media era where
Yes.
everyone you connect to on Facebook is your friend,
Mhm.
right? um, everyone
Hey, Aina.
everyone you connect to on whatever, Twitter, it's weird because like your followers, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, just be careful with that. It doesn't necessarily mean everybody is as close a friend as you want them to be. And if you really want to be that friend, you want to be that you know person for someone else, do the work.
Mhm.
Do the work. And I say this only because I know I can be uh, I can be very cranky. I can be very judgy. We talked about how over time, you can get a little jaded about it, and that's me because I feel, and this may not be correctly received by the other person, but I feel I tend to invest a lot in the friendships that are important to me.
Mhm.
I put a lot of, I communicate a lot. Even stupid things like, that if we're friends on Facebook, I will like your stuff a lot. I'm a high engagement person.
Mm.
Also on Twitter, I'm a high engagement person. But then when I feel like we're not connecting beyond that and there's no reciprocation, you will notice I stop liking your stuff, which seems silly from a social media context, but that's just like my thing.
And I think that connects to what has been popularly called the five love languages. People show their people show or express their appreciation in different ways. Some are able to do it more verbally, others do it through actions, some do it through food, others do it through um, more indirect means. I do not remember what the five are right now. I think one was gifts.
No,
I think
let's not.
yeah. David, let's talk about shapes instead. Anyway, but ultimately, I think that's the thing that um, it doesn't necessarily mean they have to socially connect to you in that same way. If they're not doing that, but they are connecting in a different way, you will feel it, right? So it's not about like equals like.
Yeah,
But
everybody does something different.
Yeah, but it is about um, we're living in a world that's just so filled with hate, so filled with selfishness. I mean, fine, the Pope made a statement that sounds like it's a great thing, but words are words, and we want action.
The Pope is not the church.
And and even
Sad
with,
to say.
and even with that, we've had reactions from people in social media about how the Pope is wrong because he doesn't understand the Bible. And seriously, people who have that sort of a reactions
Papal in era and infallibility. So
is, I guess, thrown out when they don't like it.
yeah.
And ultimately, what I'm saying is there's just so much hate in the world. So the least you can do is try to make sure that you make more effort to remind the people you love that you love them. Because this pandemic is hard on all of us in so many different ways. And it's sad that there are people out there who just relish making it harder for others, given how hard the world is
That's
now.
sad. Nikki says, yeah, I think it took a bit longer for you and I to become close friends from what I remember. I will admit, yes. And so maybe in the first 2 years, you were getting my general appeal social layer, which guards the rest of me. But now I think we're better friends.
So let's just go through a number of comments and then let's start to close. Noel also says, "I will never forget you coming to see my talk in SM Aura. Super appreciated that."
Yeah, no, it was a good thought. And hey, I rarely explored events, but again, because we were better friends by then, so it wasn't even hard. It wasn't even hard. Nico just says Lego, and okay, yeah, that's one way I express my affection for you. The other stuff is waiting here, but the big one hasn't arrived yet.
Mitch asks, "The alcohol is kicking in." In some ways, yeah, but I think we're just really this mushy when it comes to Friday
It's
shows.
barely moved.
Yeah.
This one.
It's less the alcohol and more the fact that Fridays tend to be topics that are
a bit more emotional.
Yeah.
And just really just the whole context of this this stupidly long record breaking lockdown and that we can't see our friends as much as we'd like to, then all the more yes. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of thinking and a lot of reflecting, and there is a core group of people I miss more than others, and I know we will find ways to see each other again sometime soon. But
and virtual just doesn't feel enough.
Yeah,
I mean it helps, but
it's not the same.
It's not the same.
And then, admittedly, there's a larger group of people that I guess they get my outer social layer for now. Nick feels like he's a bad friend sometimes and he's not that thoughtful. Nikki, again, everybody has their own way of expressing their friendship, their affection. I do not think that about you. You are fun.
For me, Nick, I think you don't realize it, but your love language is the time you devote to people.
Yes.
Considering how busy you get, and yet the moment you find out, let's say Rocky and I are celebrating our birthday, you'll move heaven and earth to still show up and join us. That's huge.
Even just today, I know that there was, Deus Ex, and I'm sure there are other things. You tend to have quiz nights at the same time. and yet you're here, and we super appreciate that.
And
so don't think that you're not thoughtful.
yeah, thoughtfulness is manifested differently for different people.
Jay has helped you by saying gifts, time, words of affirmation, quality time, touch. Okay.
Jay stated the
Acts of service pala siya. Quality time.
Aina, we love you too so much as well. Lockdown is crazy. Mitch affirms.
Nick already thinks the alcohol has helped. Martin came in late. It's okay. We still love you.
And you can always watch the recording afterwards. That's fine.
We already mentioned you. Sorry. You missed that part.
Aina, it's like even in real life friendships have become long distance relationships, and yes, that's
true. That all friendships now feel like long distance relationships. I shared this story in another episode, but I'll say it again. Like I finally met an online friend for the first time. Oh my god, that's already a few months back. But then it was super awkward because then it's like
you couldn't hug and say hi. It was all distant waving.
Yeah, and especially in queer circles, and the greet, or at least whether it's queer circles or Rocky more comfortable in his gay skin, that I now greet people with hugs and air kisses and beso and whatnot. And you can't do any of that. It's very awkward and very weird. So, but it is what we gotta do in the present context. Gabrielle says, "I've never seen them in person. Sometimes I feel lonely because you said," and it is sad, but at the same time, don't think that your online friendships or those kind of connections you make are not valid. Those are still good friendships to have. You can still get to know people. You can still reach out. We are all together. We are all alone together.
Yeah, we have friends whom have been online friends, and we've never really met them. Yet they are still friends that we hold dear and close to us, and we desperately wish we could meet up with them. But virtual friendships is not any less important. Martin adds, we know guys, how much we miss you guys. We miss you too. Patricia adds, better people giving respect, endorsing. That's true. I think ultimately, Patricia, the world is just really a complicated place. And the best way we can fight it is by showing that our love is greater than their hate.
This looks like a heart. Okay.
David, blow kiss instead of beso. No, that's worse because blow kiss is
There's
COVID.
particles. Although if you're masked, then you can't really see the kiss. So I'm sorry, we're at elbow.
I'm sorry. I'd rather go, butt bump or something rather than blow kiss. At least butt bumps are
What
safe.
is this, the 60s?
Aina adds, I'm finally cool with hugs and my social anxiety to some extent. And then done. I know the lockdown really has just, oh wow. It's like the damper of all the possible hot stuff this year could have given us. Can you imagine? Well, no, we don't have to imagine. We're living it.
Mitch says, Korean heart, please. I will do this for Mitch.
Am I doing it right? Okay, yeah. Nikki will say, I will sing instead, of course.
That is your love language, Nikki. That's fine.
Aina, I ended making new friends in the hospital, which is awesome because I'm sure they also appreciated the fact you were reaching out to them.
Yeah, because that's a tough job.
The frontliners are exhausted.
Being friendly with the team there, that's awesome. That's great.
So, we have definitely spent a lot of time together talking about this. And God knows we feel very, very happy that
Love
you
you, Fies, too.
chose to spend more than 30 hours. 30 hours. 30 minutes with us. I was burping while I was saying that.
Verbal typo.
Yes. But we had so much fun. So much fun. And we are very happy that you are all with us. We hope you will join us again next time.
Yeah, and if you have questions or suggestions for future episodes of things to talk about, let us know at the Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. And always remember that Friday episodes tend to run longer, at least an hour, sometimes more, depending on schedules.
And for some of you, that might mean Thursdays, because we know time zones are weird that way.
It's Friday
for everyone else
now. Yes.
Okay, making sure.
But yeah, that's valid. But again, if you have suggestions, let us know. And like today, Today's Jobo's topic.
Yes.
Jobo
Thank you,
suggested
Jobo, for suggesting
when
this
we were
topic.
asking specifically for like Friday appropriate topics.
Mhm.
You can follow us on Twitter. Toby is all Toby No Shade. I'm RG Suniko. This is also my handle and everything. I know someone was asking about our IG for some reason. I am RG Suniko on Instagram as well.
You should also check out our blog. That's baduypride.com.
Yes.
Especially if you are curious to see other episodes or if you've missed the earlier episodes. We are already in our 60s as far as episodes are concerned.
65.
So if this is the first time you've joined the show, wow, you have a lot of fun episodes to check out. And I will warn you.
It will provide context for Anak because we keep talking about Nico. Because I enjoy bringing Nico up because he is both happy and embarrassed by the fact that we keep bringing him up.
And be warned, we do have episodes that stretch as long as 3 hours.
Oh, see? And then he'll call us after the show. And then, nice to meet you, Gabrielle. It's always I'm always curious about the people who subscribe because of my Obar videos, and then it's nice that you're bridging over to this stuff.
And we always would love to have you, have all of you more in every episode that we do have. So please hit the subscribe button, bell, if you haven't, so you're always alerted if there were new episodes.
I don't understand what Nikki means by malapit na mag-nice. Silence. It must be a Nikki thing. As always, feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below. Let us know what you think about your chosen family. Do you have an LGBT family? Do you have a support structure that helps you get through things? And then, of course, feel free to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you are notified for our next live stream.
Sorry, Gabrielle, I'm sorry, we don't have a place to send money yet, but who knows, maybe in the future.
Oh my God, Gabrielle.
Maybe in the future we'll get support. That'll be awesome.
For now, we're just happy if you join us again.
And we'll be happy if you share the stream with your friends.
All right.
Once again,
I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is Baduy Pride. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you for watching, and please stay safe.